The Seventh Tower by Garth Nix. Book 4, Above the Veil. Chapter 34. Clovel was at the top of the stairs, with Ferric, Inky, and Ebbet close behind. Ebbet saw Crow's back, and he called out to him, just as the blast of orange light struck directly above them all. The blast knocked the Free Folk boy back, but that wasn't all. At the same time, it cracked the great beams of the roof and the lintel above the door. Rock shattered and began to pour down, at first in tiny pebbles, then quickly becoming a great cascade of crushing stones. Tal saw it all happen. He saw Crow catapulted back into Clovel. He saw the other Free Folk look up in sudden fear as the roof caved in, and he heard his great-uncle's surprised shout. "Back! Back for your lives!" Then the stairway was completely buried in a flood of falling stones. A huge piece of the ceiling fell in front of Tal, shattering into tiny pieces that flew up and cut his face and hands. More rock fell, and dust billowed out in huge clouds. Despite the danger, Tal rushed forward. He concentrated on his sunstone to make a hand of light to try and shift the great weight of stone. But even as the hand formed, a sudden, terrible whistle sounded above and in front of him. Instinctively, Tal ducked, a moment before a great gout of steam exploded out above his head. The steam pipe had cracked. It was the huge riser that carried vast quantities of steam up from the lava-heated pools deep below. Desperately, Tal focused, to create the hand before the super-hot steam found its way through the cracks. The whistle grew even fiercer and more shrill as steam howled out under great pressure. The heat was unbearable, and Tal was forced to crawl back. He lost concentration, and the beginning of the hand of light winked out. Pushed back by the steam, Tal had to retreat into the Underfolk's store. He couldn't see anything now. The room beyond was completely full of steam and dust. Deep inside the killing cloud, Tal could hear rocks still falling, with a boom that vibrated through the floor. "Help!" Tal screamed. He didn't care who came. There had to be somebody who could do something. "Help!" He tried to enter the room again, but was beaten back. Even at the edges, the steam was too hot to bear. Further in, it would strip the flesh from bones. Coughing, Tal retreated again and screamed once more for help. But no help came. The Chosen were all in Einir, and the Underfolk would not look in here until they were sure they were supposed to do so. Tal couldn't do anything. Adris couldn't do anything. Tal couldn't believe what had happened. He had probably killed Crow, Clovel, Ferric, Inky, and Great-Uncle Ebbet. All in one fatal second. He hadn't meant to, but it had happened. Even if by some chance they had ducked the falling rock, they couldn't have lived through the explosion of steam. Adris plucked at his sleeve. Tal looked down and dumbly saw that Crow's knife was caught in a fold of cloth under his arm. It hadn't pierced the skin, but it had missed his heart by less than a handspan.
"What do we do now?"
asked Adris, his voice small, not at all like a storm shepherd's.
"I wish Audris was here."
Tal stared from side to side. He couldn't think. He didn't know what to do. A tiny voice, coming from the bag he held in his fist, finally caught his attention. "What's going on?" Tal pulled out the red keystone and looked into it. A tear splashed on the stone. Tal wiped it away. He hadn't known he was crying. "What is it?" asked Lokar. "What's happening?" "Crow's dead," said Tal woodenly. He didn't mention the others. "Never mind that," said Lokar. "He was only an Underfolk and crazy. You must take me to the Empress. It is absolutely the most important thing. Life or death." "Life or death," repeated Tal. He felt like someone else was using his voice. "The only question is how to get to her without going through the Dark Vizier. Or the light, for that matter," mused Lokar. "Tal, are you listening?" "Yes," Tal mumbled. He couldn't think for himself. He was too deep in shock. "What's the date? Are we close to any of the festivals or anything the Empress would appear at?" "It's the day of Ascension," said Tal. "Or the day after. I don't know." "Einir!" cried Lokar. "The Empress will be in Einir. You must take me there, Tal." "I've killed—" Tal started to cry out, but Lokar interrupted him. "Einir! The Empress. She will sort everything out. She can release Rerum using the Violet Keystone. That got Tal's attention. Releasing his father. He had to talk to his father about what had happened. Einir, he mumbled. He would have to find somewhere safe to hide his body, but he couldn't leave Atris behind to guard it. Atris couldn't be trusted to stay on the job. The mausoleum, he whispered. He looked back into the swirling mass of steam and stone dust one last time. Sweat poured off his face, mingling with tears. We'll cross to Einir from the mausoleum, he decided aloud.
Einir?
Asked Atris, as Tal began to run away from the terrible place behind him.
What about Audris and Mila?
Tal didn't answer. He kept running.
We should wait,
the spirit shadow pleaded.
Audris is coming, with Mila. I can feel it.
Tal didn't hear him. There was only one thing on his mind. He had to cross over to Einir. He must do what he had wanted to do all along. Tell the Empress everything. Then everything would be her problem.